I'm very happy to be here and grateful for the opportunity to speak to you. I know that this place has provided a famous platform for many great figures from these islands and beyond to make some wonderful historic pronouncements, even though that will not be your lot this evening. I'm glad that you have invited me, especially as I'm going to speak to you on a subject about which I care deeply, democracy and development. The invitation is doubly agreeable because it has enabled me to come back to this ancient, beautiful town of Cambridge. But if truth be told, my loyalties and attachments are to the other place. Robert Mugabe, if and it be, should provide a boost for the continuing spread of democracy in Africa. You may not know a great deal of Ghanaian history, but it is a well-known fact amongst us that my route to the presidency of Ghana has been a long and tortuous one. I'll not go into that story now because it makes unpleasant telling, even though I suspect it will probably make interesting hearing. I mention the subject because campaigning to be elected president provides some of the best lessons in democracy and development. And as I say, I want to talk to you about democracy and development. 60 years ago, my country, Ghana, achieved independence from British colonial rule. It was the first black African nation to do so. There were high hopes that this nation, at the time of some 6 million people, would make rapid progress and develop in the newly won atmosphere of freedom. And indeed, we appeared to do so. The enthusiasm of the people, the determination of our first Prime Minister, later to become President, Kwame Nkrumah, and the goodwill of the world carried us through the first few early years. We then tried every form of government ever devised or dreamt of by mankind and more. Those systems that had fancy names and those that did not have any names. We were a one-party state and we were a no-party state. We had a revolution, a number of military governments that came to save us from corruption or economic hardship or whatever was fashionable then to be saved from. And we always ended up poorer and unable to realize our potential. It was surprising how tolerant we were towards the abuse of our rights, in the fond hope that it was a price worth paying for as long as our economy would flourish. Free speech was a luxury, it was claimed, we could not afford. We had to concentrate on building our economy, and free speech was a distraction. Those who stepped out of line were put in jail, and it did not take very long for the message to get through. The culture of silence that developed at various stages of the life of independent Ghana was not simply out of fear of official reprisals. It was sometimes the case that such periods coincided with moments of extreme economic difficulty, and people were simply too preoccupied with trying to make ends meet. Many people kept their heads down and quiet just to survive. For many others, the coping mechanism was simply to leave the country. There have always been adventurous Ghanaians who would go out and try their luck in other parts of the world. But the periods of economic collapse turned our country into a place of wholesale emigration. It started in the middle 1970s with a spectacular movement to Nigeria, which emptied our schools and universities of our trained teachers and lecturers and other professionals. It reached its pinnacle in the early 1980s. Ghanaians suddenly acquired the reputation of being the people you could find in every corner of the globe, often not out of choice. I'm unwilling to drag your forum into this very Ghanaian dispute about which side of the political divide won the battle, and will therefore only make the point that after decades of arguments, a consensus finally emerged that ushered in our Fourth Republic in 1993. We have agreed on a multi-party constitutional democracy and a guarantee of individual freedoms under the rule of law. These past 24 years of the Fourth Republic have turned out to be the longest period of stability and economic growth in our 60 years of nationhood. We are nowhere near where we ought to be, but the arguments have been settled, and believe me, this has been a critical bridge for us to cross. We know that the democracy we seek to build and entrench in Ghana will only succeed if we build a prosperous nation and our people are at peace with themselves and with the world. Our party's motto, development in freedom, states clearly this philosophy. We've embarked upon an ambitious program in education to ensure that every child born in Ghana has a minimum of secondary school level education. As from September, secondary high school education in our public schools has been made free. It has meant that 90,000 more students have entered secondary school this year than last year. We want to equip our young people with the skills that would make our economy competitive in the world. We want our population to have the confidence to be active participants in their government and to be able to face the world on any subject. The democracy that we seek to build does not end in casting votes and electing a president and a member of parliament once every 4 years. We seek to build a prosperous nation with equal opportunities, where all citizens feel they have a stake. Never again should a Ghanaian citizen feel he has to join the desperados that cross the Sahara and drown in the Mediterranean Sea because their own country holds no promise or hope. I know there will always be those among us who would want to try and seek their fortunes in foreign lands. We wish them well and pray that they are treated with dignity wherever they go. But it should never be because there are no opportunities in Ghana. Our infant democracy has put us on the path to sustainable development, which will improve the way we manage our natural and human resources. We are on the path to creating wealth and improving the lives of our people. We're determined to do that by transforming the structure of our economy. The neo-colonial economy, based on the production and export of raw materials, cannot form the basis of a new era of prosperity for our people. We have to move, and we are moving towards an economy of processed agricultural and engineering goods and services. That is the way to job creation on a mass base and an improvement in the incomes of ordinary Ghanaians. Widespread unemployment, especially amongst the youth, the greatest segment of our population, as in all African countries, represents the greatest threat to our democracy and stability. Only a performing, rapidly expanding economy that generates jobs can provide an urgent solution. In the short space of 10 months since my government took office, the macroeconomy has been stabilizing. The fiscal deficit, which stood at 9.5% at the end of 2016, has been reduced to 6.3%. Inflation within the same period has declined from 15.4% to 11.6%. Our economy has grown from 3.3% last year, the lowest in 22 years, to 7.9%. Interest rates are declining, And we're now witnessing a more stable cedi, our national currency. We're creating a business-friendly environment that should encourage significant investments in the development of our economy. Our determination to build our democracy is further anchored in our deep-seated belief in the concept of the separation of powers as an active principle for the promotion of freedom and accountable governance, free of corruption. Independent judges, administering the law, protecting the human rights of citizens, and ensuring public accountability are strong pillars of our democracy. Let me end with this quote from Reinhold Niebuhr, a famous American theologian and philosopher. He said, and I endorse it wholeheartedly, quote, "Man's capacity for justice makes democracy possible, but man's inclination to injustice makes democracy necessary." To which I might add, prosperity that is not built on justice and democracy has a tendency to collapse. Ladies and gentlemen, I vote for democracy and development. I thank you very much for your attention.